Golden Black Live. We don't want to disparage Brian Newbert. We got maybe a little better looking with Everett Stevens here. I don't know. Everett is, it's not. We shouldn't say in this business, but and he's younger than I am, so he really can't be a hero. But his attitude has always been a hero. You always, I don't know. Some people are born with a smile on their face and seem happy all the time. I'm sure that's not always been the case. But were you born that way? Is that just a natural way that you came to this earth?
No, not at all. I just always try to look at things optimistic, on the positive side. So, that's just one of the things that just comes with me.
Yeah, well, you have so many great stories that just because of the Gene Katie stories from your mother on down. We'll hit. I'm sure some people will ask about that as well. And in the story, I think it was in Mark Monteith's book about them when being recruited at Purdue. Tell us the story about it. Is it true that Gene kind of locked the doors in the car and said, "You're going to Purdue"? Is that true, or is that urban legend?
Yeah, no, that was pretty true. They had been recruiting me pretty hard coming up to Evanston, and it just got to the point to where he was tired of. He felt like he had presented Purdue the best he could, and it was time for me to make a decision. And he had me in the car, and him and Coach Weber was in the car, and had a driver, and we were just sitting there talking, and he was asking, what is it that he was asking some questions about Purdue. Why is it you haven't made a commitment? And so I just said, I'm still, thinking. And he just, he kind of like raised his voice and got on me. He said, Purdue's the best place for you. We treat you good and, get a good education. And, he was kind of like, yelling it at me.
And?
And, I kind of like, again, you wouldn't believe it, but I giggled a little bit and, said that, I'm going to be making my decision soon. And after I got the car, Coach Weber told me later that Coach Katie said to him, "You think I was too hard on him?" And Coach Weber said, "Yeah, I think so." He said, "Well, you haven't seen nothing yet."
And that was true, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was true.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, no, I mean, you were a high school senior. In those days, you weren't committing had you gone into your senior year yet?
Yeah, I was going to go into my senior year.
And had Troy and Todd already committed, or what was the timetable?
No, they were still in the process.
I couldn't remember who committed
from what
first.
I can tell, I believe Troy committed first, and then they got Todd, and then of course they wanted to seal a deal with me, and all. I was the last one to commit because they were talking about Todd and Troy. We have a good unit, we can have a good unit. Jeff Arnold, Dave Stack. So it was a big deal because just the fact that they really felt they had a good group of talent right there that hopefully someday could blossom.
Dick Vitale, the 83-84 Purdue team was a shocking pick to finish last in the league. They win the Big Ten that year. But Vitale, this is before before AAU and before recruiting rankings got as big as they are now. But he would go on all season long, I think, about Troy, Todd, and Everett coming to Purdue, and this is the best. And it was a top 5 ranked recruiting class. It was you guys, and the best thing is for Purdue, you paid dividends. You got the job done when you got here too.
Yeah, I mean, again, credit goes to the coaching staff. Coach Stalling, Coach Weber, and Coach Katie for putting together a unit that they felt could blossom, and buying into the system in which Coach Katie presented at Purdue, tough basketball and doing it the right way, playing hard, and all those different things fell into place as the years progressed from my freshman year all the way up to my senior year.
Yeah, and I've been meaning to ask you, or wanting to ask you if I ever got the chance. And 30 for 30 did a story on, of course, the late Ben Wilson, and a difficult story. But you have a nasty dunk in that thing that is just. I'm watching this thing and I go, and you sit there and go, wow, this guy could jump out of the gym, which you could. But did you know that was going to be in there, or the first chance that you got a chance to watch it?
No, I didn't. They did, of course, the interview a year before that was presented, and I didn't know what type of footage they was going to have, but I just felt honored in the fact of being able to speak about having an opportunity to play against Ben Wilson and of course Simeon. But after doing that dunk, it was funny because it just got on, YouTube's maybe about a week ago.
Oh, really?
My niece told me about it, and so of course I told Kendall, and because I forget the fact that he hasn't seen me play.
Yeah.
He only hears things, so he's so tired of hearing Everett this, Everett that. And so it's so funny because after he ended up watching it, I mean, I don't know how many times he just kept texting me, and man, you can ball. I mean, why? He just, this wow and ooh, and this for me, it's like it's already been played out,
Yeah, it's already happened.
It's already happened, But for him, it was like he just was oohing and ahhing, and it felt good, of course. But we always go back and forth with one another about trying to have personal accolades and talking about it, just little fun stuff. But the biggest thing is just I'm just happy that he has an opportunity, of course, to play at Purdue.
Yeah. And that's one of those things, to be in a part of something like that in the 30 for 30, but also be a part of really the legendary. That was a legendary time in Chicago area basketball. I mean, there were so many. There always are a lot of great players up there, but just to be part of those guys. What were some of the guys that you had a chance to play against that may not have made it big in college, but were just phenomenal high school players that you remember from up there? I mean, you had Marcus Liberty, and you had obviously Ben Wilson and others that were up there. But what were some other maybe schoolboy legends that we may not have all heard of?
Well, I mean, Brian Sloan, he ended up winning Mr. Basketball down there,
and he was just a role player in college, a good role player, but at Indiana.
Yes, and he played at a small school, but even though he played at a small school, I mean, I had the opportunity to play against him when he played against the big boys, all the elite players, and I was impressed. I mean, his accolades, what he could do was definitely worthy. But one that stands out to me that always I felt probably should have got Mr. Basketball was Kenny Battle.
Yeah, great player.
If anyone's seen him, I just thought he was phenomenal of what he brought to the game of basketball, being able to defend a point guard. His athleticism, his tenacity, all those different things, was something I felt was definitely worthy of Mr. Basketball. But the problem was, Brian was in, one part of the state, and me and Kenny was in another part, fighting for the votes.
Because Brian's from downstate.
Correct.
Yeah.
And me and Kenny, we were at another part of the Midwest, and our votes came, split in half, and so it really messed either one of us up, for that chance to get at Mr. Basketball. But again, there's just so many different players you run across.
Well, you think about Kenny Battle, goes to Northern Illinois, transfers to Illinois, and really was part of an unbelievable team that you guys beat a lot. I mean, obviously, this is a loaded Illinois. Lou Henson was bringing them in the Big Ten was really a unbelievable conference during your time.
Yeah, and no doubt it was. From top to bottom, it really was competitive. And the thing about it was you had teams, just like nowadays, you look on paper, you say, oh my goodness, this is phenomenal. But the bottom line is you got to play the game. And, for us, we used to play against Michigan and Illinois and, those teams, Ohio State, they had a lot of players that played professional basketball. Not only just played, but they were, drafted high. Iowa.
Yeah.
And but when they played us, we were so good at what we did in our system, and the coaches came with a good game plan. They just couldn't figure out why is it that we're winning. We're beating them because we should be beating them. We're more talented, but you got to play the game and win it. So
you had an interesting start in terms of your career. Obviously, as a freshman, you played but didn't get to play as much, and worked your way into the lineup really as a full-time starter as a junior. What was that like for you, and what have you? And if Kendall I assume Kendall does listen to some things, but how do you relate to his experience? His experience has been different, but what was that experience like for you? What did you learn from having to wait your time to get your time where you were a full-time starter at Purdue?
Well, for me, I knew I wasn't ready as a freshman, as well as the coaches, obviously.
But you did have those unbelievable shoes, you guys. Remember those golden black shoes?
Yeah. And so anyway, it was just a process, and it was a very hard process because when you're a freshman, you're all this and all that. You're coming to play against juniors and seniors who are just physically, more stronger than you, understand the system. all those different things can be overwhelming, you know, and then all of a sudden you have classes and, you know, you have a social life. So I knew I wasn't ready. And that process for my freshman year was very hard. But again, you know, having people around and being positive about, you know, your time to come, just keep working on it, on your game and get stronger, things like that. All those different things, you know, fell into place. But in the time that you're living it, it seems like, you know, the whole world's caving.
Yeah. I was going to say, did you know you weren't ready, or do you know you weren't ready now looking back? I mean, yeah. I mean,
I knew I wasn't ready then.
Okay.
I knew I
Okay.
wasn't ready by freshman year, not at all. Because there was a few games, matter of fact, that one game, and I wasn't even playing at the time, you know, put it this way, playing heavy minutes.
Yeah.
The game when Coach Knight threw the chair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Did you get in that game? You remember?
no, I didn't.
I don't think you did.
I
Yeah.
didn't, but the thing about it was, it wasn't like I was playing, but I was on the side. It got so loud in there.
Yeah.
I was sitting on the bench praying that he wouldn't call my name because it was just so loud. I just couldn't concentrate, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, I wouldn't have gotten the game anyway, and we ended up winning the game. But you know, it's a lot coming at you when you're a freshman. And Kendall, for the most part, has had that type of come at him his freshman year, as well as sophomore year. And not only that, you know, what's expected of him. So again, it is what it is. You know, you got to make the best of it. And I share with him things that you know, understand. Even though you might feel like it's the low of the lows, we've all been through it.
Yeah.
You know, so stay encouraged. You know, keep your head forward and keep walking forward. And you know, and that's what it's all about, making those adjustments as a player.
Yeah. Kendall seems unflappable. Maybe that's the mother's side of things. I don't know, but. Do you tell? I mean, he seems very cool and calm. I mean, it's a tough gig playing college basketball at this level. Has he always been that way? Even in his early days, did you know, or was that always been his demeanor, or is that more of his stage demeanor?
No, that's been his demeanor, and for me, it's funny because you know I was the same way. I remember my brothers. You know, my dad always wanted me to show more emotion, and
Yeah.
you know, but everyone has a different style of playing the game, you know, playing sports. And my whole thing, of course, since, you know, living through it, is that, you know, you got to be able to respect and welcome, you know, what different players bring to the game, you know, the game of basketball. Because the bottom line is going out there and being a better basketball player and producing. And I just share with that with Kendall. You know, as many times, you know, people talk about how, you know, calm you are, you need to show a little bit more emotion. The bottom line, Kendall, is that if you're out there producing, you know, enough is going to be said. So he's always been that way. And of course, for me, I wish he would be a little bit more emotional, but I understand it.
How would you have dealt with the world of Twitter, do you think, if you'd have been as a player? Like, you know, after you guys, and you had a great season, but you lose to Florida in the NCAA tournament. Very difficult time as a team because you thought you were going to go further. But just the kind of things like that. How do you think guys deal with it now, or do you think they can tune it out some?
Well, again, I mean, as social media is really rampant. I mean, it's one of those things to where, you know, everyone's involved.
Yeah.
Young and old.
Yeah.
And for me, if I
Informed and uninformed.
yes.
Yeah.
And you already hear about all the hiccups and mistakes that people, you know, tweet out that you would only say to your friends, but now you're putting it out to where millions of people can see it. You know, for me, I stay away from that. I stay away from it because, you know, we have enough hiccups in our lives.
Yeah.
And so I'm just glad personally that we didn't have it coming in. And Matt, you know, Coach Painter, he does a great job of having it to where once the season start up, you know, they get off of it because it's a distraction. It can be a distraction.
Oh, absolutely. And not productive, I don't
Right,
think, for them.
exactly.
I don't think it adds, I just don't think it brings anything to the table
It
to make you a
doesn't.
better basketball team for that. As much as we're in that business of the world of message boards, we're guilty to some extent. We're trying not to be, trying to give good information out there. All right, who in your days made you the maddest in terms of having to play against, or who was maybe the hardest guy, the defender that you just did not want to see check you? Was it a, I don't know if it would be a Scott Skiles. He might have just made you mad for other reasons, but he was good. But who were guys that you just didn't want to deal with when they were checking you one-on-one?
Well, it was three players that I felt that I really couldn't check, and those three players were Dale Johnson, who played at Michigan State.
Yeah.
He had my number. I couldn't do nothing with him. He had moves that always kept me off balance. The next player was Trent Jackson, who played for Wisconsin.
Really good player.
He was very good in the triple threat, and so I just hated playing against him, and so that's why it was good to have Tony Jones, because Tony Jones could beat people up and shut people down. So I always used to try to sick Tony on him.
He's a good enforcer.
Games. And then the next one was Jay Edwards for Indiana. I mean, he was a freshman at the time, and I was good at blocking shots, and I couldn't find a way to intimidate him or make him feel that my presence. And a lot has to do because we were competing, and he was just a bona fide player, and I used to hate going up against those three players.
I used to love to hear, back in the day, hear Gene Cady talk about, he would describe, you probably don't even remember this, he would describe Jay Edwards as a viper. He said, you got to watch him, he's a viper, he's going to steal ball, which he did in that game in Bloomington in '88 where you guys made that unbelievable comeback. And then he makes a couple plays at the end of that game. And that was, what, a 17-game winning streak or something like it. Do you still have bad memories of that, or have you washed it out of the system?
Yeah, I mean,
you guys were just playing. You played the best basketball I've ever seen a Purdue team play, coming back on the road in that game. But then they got you at the end.
A lot of things have been washed out unless someone brings them back.
Yeah, I don't want to do that to
you because we've had a lot of success, and I'm talking about the time being at Purdue when I played. We had a lot of success, so we have a lot of great memories. But the one, of course, that sometimes come back and get a little sting, a little poke here and there, is the Kansas State game. That always comes because for me it was just, and really what made it special was that I felt our team really wanted to go. We had a chance to go all the way. Yeah. We had the right personnel. We just didn't win it for Coach Cady. We all wanted to win it for Coach Cady. We really did, because we felt he was worthy of that type of recognition. And so, looking back at it, that's the only regret I had. I wish if there's one thing I could turn around was the fact of winning one for him.
Now, how could a guy that's as surly and occasionally a little bit loud, what is it that for Gene Cady that made him as a guy that you just wanted to run through a wall for? I mean, this is a very common thing. From Brian Cardinal says it, Rob Hummel, Chris Kramer says this, Everett Stevens says this. I mean, he rode you hard throughout the course of his time, but what was that love that he brought? How did you know he loved you and wanted? I mean, what was your sure sign that it wasn't just malice? It was in fact love.
Well, I mean, you just knew that he was just fair. He was straightforward and fair. So being fair, he wasn't trying to undercut you, tell you this, tell you that, tell someone else. No, he was going to be a straight shooter, and you knew that he was hardcore in what he wanted you to play hard. And the next thing that he instilled in us on just being on time, being responsible, being on time,
making your bed.
Exactly. So all those different things, those three things that the rules that he projected and lived by, you respected that, and he just had that. He just had a knack, and I understand only a few coaches have this type of knack to where you can be yelled at, put down at, screamed at again, and then go out there and play. I can't tell you what it is that someone possessed inside, but he had that. After he could scream at us, we would want to go out there and play harder. Yeah. Someone else, you'd be like, oh, come on, you know. But he had that ability.
The three of you, sometimes they say about friends, it's hard to have three when you have Troy, Todd, and Everett. Which of the did that ever? The fact there were three of you and you were attached at the hip, did that ever become, you guys all have really good personalities and friendly people, but did that ever become an issue? Did you ever have a rift?
Not at all. Believe it or not, no, because we all knew, just because I think a lot had to do with our background, with our family, moms and dads.
Yes.
Knew right from wrong. So, we really didn't have to check one another. We knew if we were doing something wrong, that if someone else said something, you respected what they say and you get back on track. And then we trusted one another. We grew up together right from the start, our freshman year, and we just built a friendship that I think that really helped us on the court as well as off the court.
And you still are friends today, and
Yes,
still,
we are.
and
Yes.
it has to feel good when you come back, and you're in Mackey Arena a lot, but when the three of you are back and the fans absolutely adore what you guys did. I mean, that's got to be an exciting thing.
It very much is. And then, to add to that, I think, what Coach Painter has done as far as getting more of
Players back. And
players back. You need that family type, because for me, I had a chance to meet Bruce Parkinson.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say his name is because his name is always at
Yeah.
the top of the list for all
Well,
those
sixth,
records.
yeah.
And for me, it was just an honor because I played the game, and all of a sudden I'm looking at his numbers, and I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
this guy could, and I had a chance to meet him. And
Great guy.
Yeah, great guy. And so
Can't
all
find
those
a better
different
guy.
things just keep Purdue basketball alive.
Yeah, and you had so many experiences during that time that would built, I think, forever bonds. Still, and I don't even get to half of my favorite stories. One of my other favorite stories is the story of your mom. Now, Purdue, we have to set the scene. I think it's 1988. Purdue is going up to Michigan, as I recall, national television. And in those days, when you played on Sunday afternoon on ABC, it was a big deal. And this is a game for leadership in the Big Ten. And then you asked the coach something either was it before the game or was it after the game about senior night and what your mom was going to do? Tell that story.
It was before the game, and
before the game. All right.
I've been wanting to ask Coach, for a while, do you mind if my mom, could sing the national anthem, because she done it when I was younger, before we used to play sometimes with my friends, and she has a very good voice, a strong voice.
Oh yeah, she does.
And so anyway. After going through the game plan, a very important game before we go into the tournament and all, and of course they want to finish on a good note, and we give us our prep talk and what we're going to be doing offensively, our game plan. Then afterward, I said, Coach, can I talk to you? He said, sure. So I went to the side with him and said, do you mind for our last game, at Minnesota home? Do you mind if my mom singing the national anthem? And he looked at me, sure. I don't mind. Was she going to be okay with singing in front of 15,000? I said, yeah, I think she'll be fine. And then, of course, after I went out there, I didn't hear what was said in the back, but apparently he said, can you believe this? We're going out here to play this game. And here he's thinking about his mom singing. But again, for me, everything was already set with the fact that we were confident.
Yeah.
We were prepared.
Oh, yeah.
And the group that I work with, and play with, we prepared for that game. So just that little comment, and all, I was able to get back in sync and stay focused, and so everything worked out well.
Yeah, and your mom put on a great rendition of senior night against Minnesota. You guys played poorly in the first half. I don't know if you remember, but then came back and beat the Gophers real bad. Was that did it make you nervous when she was singing, or did you know she could nail it like she did? As I recall, she nailed it pretty well.
Yeah, no, it didn't make me nervous. I was very confident, and I gave her a lot of confidence as well as others. My dad, for the other part, I mean, he was trying to talk her out of it. Said, Maddie, you don't have to do this. Because a lot of people choke with doing that song, and it's a hard song to sing, as well as in front of 15,000 people. So she did well. We went back, and Coach Katie, he was upset because he was so focused in on the game plan and that we didn't go back out there. He said if he would have known, he would have gone back out there for us to see, but.
Oh, you didn't see it. You guys were not. That's right. They didn't used to do it that way. That's right.
We was in the locker room, and he was kind of upset that he wasn't informed that about that. But it was just it was preparation that we needed to do.
All right, this year's team. We've watched an up and down season. Certainly a team full of potential. We've watched some great wins. Certainly the Boilermakers winning against BYU and North Carolina State, and playing well in the early part of the Big Ten. You've got obviously a lot of coaching experience. I know you have a son on the team, but where do you see this Purdue basketball team right now?
For me, just being an outsider, and of course just getting information here and there from Kendall, it's a good base. And when I say a good base, is that it starts with believing in the system, having good chemistry. So they got the base that they need, and they are talented to where they can make, you know, they're young, but they can grow. They can grow and get a feel for what the Big Ten is all about, home games and away games. And of course, you know, Coach Painter and his staff, they present all the game planning that you need to, you know, to prepare them for each game. So I feel very good on the fact of watching them as a team develop. That's the biggest thing.
You know, Kendall has that pure shooting mentality, and you were a fine shooter in your own right, but maybe not quite to that level. And I don't know if you guys argue about that at home, but was this a age 5 thing where he just started being able to shoot the ball from deep? I mean, was that something that did he develop that way, or did the lightning or the switch just come on at an older age?
No, he's always had a really good touch for shooting. You know, from the age of 3, he was able to dribble a basketball, you know, in sync. And so all those different things, you know, I was able to, I could tell because I played basketball. He was with me when I was over in Europe and so forth. But you don't know what it's going to be like because there's so many years, so many years ahead. But you could just see that, you know, he had a pretty decent knack for basketball dribbling. And then, of course, you know, buying all these different, you know, Nerf
Nerf basketball,
Nerf basketball, right? And
yeah.
out shooting, you know, and being around basketball, he developed a love for it. But he's always had that touch, you know, at a young age.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we could go on for another half hour or an hour talking stories, and we appreciate it very much. You taking the time on this cold day, and you'll be in Mackey Arena, I'm sure, tomorrow for tomorrow's 2:30 big showdown with Maryland. But it'll be fun to watch to see how the Boilermakers do. But Everett, Boilermaker legend, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it, and we'll have you on again. Probably next week. No, we'll have you on before long because a lot more stories to be told. All right, we're going to bring Kyle Charters in for segment 3 and talk a little football, a little women's basketball, and hit that as we go on to our final segment of Gold and Black Live.